what are we going to do about it? I've fed up with talking, and I'm much more of an action man. And so I'm going to now suggest things that what agriculturists can actually do in the future to improve the resilience of people, of enterprises, and of landscapes. And the first thing you have to do is to create not a single entity like IFPRI, but to have a whole group of people working together, because this is much too complicated with one organization. So this paper is now being given, we have some co-authors in the room, by the Global Horticultural Initiative, which I'm the chairman, and that involves a whole range of different organizations, FAO, GFAR, African Sea Trade Association, the International Society of Horticultural Science, and others. Principally also CG centers like IITA, Biodiversity International, and ICRAF, and we are getting funding at the moment through the Humid Tropics program, and so that's something that we're trying to specialize in at the moment. Next, please. It's also co-authored by the AIRCAR grouping of international centers. This is a parallel institution to the CGIAR with 9 different centers, and we are working together to try to create an environment which soils are made healthy, crops, livestock and feed is made healthy, families can be made healthy, enterprises can be made healthy, and landscapes can be made healthy. And I will be demonstrating how that is potentially possible over the next few slides. Next, please. So the first thing we want to do is to build resilience through human health. And in this particular case, Global Hort, IFPRI, and the AIRCAR grouping feel that it is possible to improve health by improving dietary diversity and the consumption of fruit and vegetables, small stock, protein crops, etc. But in particular, we're interested in promoting the health of young women, because we believe that the 1,000 Days program is not quite right. It should be a 3,000 Days program, and that anybody who is not in good health by the time they get married and then get pregnant is going to end up by passing malnourished babies on to the next generation. So you can see at the bottom, in the blue, the issues involved with the new Sustainable Development Goal 6. We're all going to be aiming for that into the future. If you're not familiar with the Sustainable Development Goal 6, now's your time to get your thinking cap on, because it's going to involve things like healthier diets, safe and nutritious food, reducing food losses, which is a major issue, having better business models and working with the private sector, women's empowerment all the way along the value chain, and trying to get coherent policy. All of those things essentially is a mainstream for this conference, and we believe that Sustainable Development Goal 6 is going to be our major issue. Next, please. So how do we get people to eat 400 grams of fruit and vegetables a day, which the World Health Authority tells us is the minimum requirement? I don't know if many people in fact do eat 400 grams of fruit and vegetables per day. If you look at the picture, you can see with the plates that that's what 200 grams of vegetables looks like and 200 grams of fruit looks like. And in fact, if you put it together, it's the equivalent weight of a World Cup football. Now, anybody who doesn't think they're eating that amount needs to eat more, and it's very important for your health. Next, please. We believe that we can build more resilient farming systems, more resilient enterprises by having a much greater diversity of crops. And that doesn't mean having just sorghum and pearl millet on your farm. It means thinking about nutrient density, having a whole range of different fruit and vegetables, not necessarily cucumber or lettuce or any of these things that are essentially just water standing up. We want nutrient-dense fruit and vegetables. This is what ICRAF calls the flavorites, and you can have plenty of really good fruits, plenty of really good nutrient-dense vegetables that can help with things like type 2 diabetes, bitter gourd, moringa, chock full of vitamin A and vitamin C, and the others. So it's very important that if you're going to have a resilient farming system, you have to have a good diversity of fruit and vegetables present. Next, please. Okay, and the other thing now is that if you're going to be wanting to develop resilient farming communities, then you have to start preparing for global warming today. Not tomorrow, not in 10 years' time, today. Because if you look at the slide, you can see the average air temperature increase at Shanghua, where my headquarters is, from 1975 to 2013, and the average rate of increase is about 1 degree centigrade per 25 years. So this is about the fastest rate of anywhere in the world currently, more than 4 degrees C per 100 years. That means that we have to start breeding now for this, because it takes us about 25 years from F2 segregating populations to mass use of a variety spread out by the private sector. And I'm not in the least bit concerned about the increase in temperature per se. I'm very concerned about the effect it's going to have on diseases and insects, because 1 degree centigrade means another 3 generations of whitefly that send viruses, etc., going crazy, and we have to be very, very careful about that. Next, please. And if we're going to, in fact, build healthy communities, we also then have to have healthy enterprises with enterprises which can sell fruit and vegetables and other fruits that are well marketed, that have good enhanced pest resistance, good nutrient density, better post-harvest handling, which is a major problem in things like tomato, and making sure that they are capable of marketing. Now in East Africa at the moment, ABRDC tomato varieties dominate the scene. The Tanya, the processing tomato, is essentially the only tomato being used for tomato ketchup and tomato paste, all the way from South Sudan all the way to Zimbabwe. Okay, but here's the rub, that Dash Industries that produce these things import 70% of their tomato paste from China, because they can't get enough produced locally. So there's a huge market that can be ready to be fulfilled. We just have to be able to have the seed available so people can actually go out and grow these things. And at the moment, the private sector is producing, getting on for 45 tons of this improved seed. This is a massive amount of tomato when you think that it's only about 100 grams per hectare. So we believe that there's huge scope for improved productivity of vegetables. You think about eggplants, you think about a whole range of other green leafy African vegetables, plenty can be done. Next, please. And we believe also that if you're going to transform human health, if you're going to transform livestock health, if you're going to transform enterprises, if you're going to transform communities, then you also have to think at a landscape level. And the AIRCAR grouping of centres has produced this white paper, and there's copies available if people would like one. Here we detail the plans on how we want to transform rural livelihoods and landscapes through sustainable improvements to incomes, food security, and the environment. Now that's quite a big claim, but you think about the 9 centres that are involved in AIRCAR. IFDC is looking after the soil health. We have CABI looking after plant health. We have IFPRI looking after integrated pest management. We have ABRDC looking after improved vegetables and some fruits. We have Fuelwood being looked after by INBA, the Bamboo and Rattan Centre. We have Crops for the Future looking at new specialist crops to fit into niche environments. We have I'm starting to forget which centres we have now. We have Izimod, which is the mountain centre in Nepal. And we have Keatinge that's looking after perennial crops like cocoa, coffee, and other plantation things at a landscape level. Putting all those centres together, you can then go from this field scale all the way through to the end of the market chain to landscape level. Because unless you're dealing at a landscape level, it's not clear whether or not you have sustainability in all the various phases. This is a complicated game. Let's not get me wrong here. And you need to have a very good consortium of team put together in order to be able to ensure that what you do doesn't do more harm down the line than you had expected. So I am not interested anymore in single commodity type of approaches. I'm certainly not interested in donors that only want to fund maize, wheat and rice or orange flesh, sweet potato. I want people to take this seriously, and I've got 36 seconds left, so I'm going to make sure I'm going to repeat that. I want people to take this seriously, because if you're going to, in fact, contribute to resilient communities, you need to do all of the sorts of things that I've been talking about in this paper and do them well. Thank you very much.